Hey, glad you're back. This is Coach Bill. I want to pick up from where we left off yesterday. We want to talk today about mirroring the mound, or what it means to move down the mound, or this discussion of stride in the mound. And just recapping from the previous two episodes that we've done so far, here's what we've talked about. We've talked about that back foot stability, having that back foot and making sure it is firmly rooted into the ground. Okay, Randy Sullivan would call that the iron pyramid. Okay, we talked about staying on top of the back foot, not getting inside the back foot, or even in our setup, having our feet too wide as well. So we want to stay right on top of that back foot. We want to make sure that we are not trying to falsely load the front hip. We don't want to lead with the hip, because by doing so, that got us into pushing off that back leg. It got us into triple extension, which was the extension of the ankle, the knee, and the hip. And when that happens, we pushed our legs, then therefore we'll push our upside, and we'll push the baseball as well. We wanted to understand that ground force was the most efficient use of it is to push straight down into the ground, so that we're going to get more force when it resonates back out. That was Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. We talked a little bit about if we were coaches or we're talking to other players, we want to make sure we're using short external instruction, and we want the pitcher to internalize what that means on their own. And then the last video, we talked about rooting the back foot, getting that back foot solidly into the ground, doing so with a nice little hip rotation, a little bit of a counter hip rotation, not volunteering the front leg. And we wanted to control the middle of the body, control our center. So we wanted to stay centered as we were doing that. So that's where I want to pick up today. And if you're ready, so am I. So I've pulled up this clip here of a young man here in the building. This is Derek. Let me slide this out of the way if I can. Obviously I cannot, because I've got my eraser on here. But I'm looking at his feet here, and what we're going to watch here, I just want to watch Derek put his force down through the ankle here, coming right down through here. We're then going to see him sit a little bit, and as he starts his move, and as we're doing such, we want to understand that mound is about 10 inches up, and if that was about right here on Derek's sock, oh boy, let me erase that one, and I'm going to go to a straight line. So as we're doing this here, I apologize to you. So that's somewhat of the slope of the mound that we're working on right here. Okay, so I would connect that going out to 10 feet. Right, we're dropping an inch for every foot. So what we want to do then is, when Derek gets into the bottom of his load, right about here, now we're going to want to watch him mirror that line. Okay, that's how we want to carry ourselves. All right, that's the exact motion that we're going to look for. Let's see what we get here. And it does a pretty decent job of moving. Might be a little fast in opening up. I'll let you see it in full motion. But now, as a pitcher, what I'm looking to do now is to be able to carry the middle of my body, and to be able to carry it under control. So if I can sort of understand, right, I really want to look at these feet and legs, so I apologize for clipping him off here a little bit, but I'm trying to carry the middle here. Okay, just as he enters into the rotation. So back foot solid in the ground, activates the glute. He's got a little counter rotation. He's a little quick to open up right here on the lead leg. We see this lead leg. Oops, again, wrong thing. Okay, I want to go freehand here. We see this knee flying open a little bit. Something that we're working on. We want to make sure we get that cleaned up. Okay, and what he does do very well is he accepts his weight. We're going to watch that front foot get solid. That becomes so important. We'll travel foot to foot. So if you come off the ball of the foot, you'll probably land on the ball of the foot. If you're in the heel, you're on the heel. But we can see here he's really solid as he's getting into his follow through. So I want to take a look at Derek from behind. And here's Derek from behind. So let's take a quick look at this, and we can see he's maintaining his hinge. He's not swaying his back. He's dropping down into this. And what I would say, that front knee opening up here a little bit, you can see from this angle, it pulls him out of his ride a little bit. He could ride a little bit longer. All in all, he's still doing a pretty good job here, but we're going to notice once he hits, we're going to see a slight restriction in the hip right here, and we can see the pull right through here. So there's a little limitation in here, and we can see he's not quite squared up right here with the hip. So we can see it's not quite squared right there, and those are some areas that we want to work on. So Derek throws really, really hard. These are areas that we're just getting underway here. He's just finishing up his summer season, and we're just trying to get back into into our power creation. And these are the areas that we're going to start working on to clean up. I would say, however, let's just watch that in finishing out. So as it goes, and one more time. Okay. So going over the things that we talked about today, then we want to make sure that we're staying in the ground with that back foot, staying firmly rooted, allowing us to lead. I'll call it leading. It's that counter rotation with the back hip that's going to pull me closed. It's going to keep me closed. I know some players often they can correlate that with stay closed to third base, point your belly button to third base. So these are some of the things that they come back to me with. So we want to discuss with them their language, what they're telling themselves, and that's how we want to start to relate to them. And then on that landing, we want to make sure that we have that stable front foot. A lot of times you'll hear the phrase, I believe Scotty Johnson from Vanderbilt coins the phrase, you will move foot to foot. So if we're unstable on the back foot, we're going to end up being unstable on the front foot. Okay, so this is the first part of how do we use our legs. So we've talked about stabilized back foot. We've talked about loading into the glute, sitting into the glute, mirroring the mound, allowing yourself just to slide down that mound, not straight out and dropping, but to mirror the slope of the mound, to ride that as long as we can, to stay in the ground as long as we can, and to stabilize off that front foot. Now, all of those have some other things. Very briefly, the idea of having a longer stride for velocity. Do longer strides correlate to velocity? Yes, when done correctly. And more often than not, longer strides are done incorrectly. That's where we see a ton of triple extension, a ton of the towel drill that promotes triple extension. So we have to understand how it is that we want to move it. The towel drill in and of itself is not wrong. When it is applied incorrectly, it is wrong. So at this point, this is the use of the lower legs. We want to touch a little bit about the front foot and the finish rotation of that. But I think what we'll do on the next time that we get together here with our pitching, we'll move up the chain a little bit now. So we've talked about our legs, a little bit about the hips. Now we want to get into our hips and into that upper body. Okay, I'll see you right back here.